the tools to do their job correctly. And when you run into that issue, you're shooting them essentially in the knees, meaning you're not giving them enough power to do what needs to be done. If you follow this formula where you're observing the behavior and you're writing this down, you want to keep this in a record. You want to analyze what they have done. You want to use something that's objective, some kind of measurement that you can go back to and relate to if you have these issues. Measures and safety process, not just results. So you want to see employee X was doing this and they did this correctly. This was a result. But what process did they do to get this correct result? As you're capturing this information, give feedback to the employee. If they need to make a small improvement, let them know. If they're doing excellent, let them know. They will become more of a team member if you let them know what they're doing correctly. Be specific about the performance as it becomes positive reinforcement. I believe in positive reinforcement. I have never been a huge fan of constructive criticism because those are oxymorons. Constructive criticism, they just don't seem to work out in my head. Positive verbal feedback. This is something that's crucial as a supervisor that you need to give to the team member. Be very specific and be very sincere. Don't be one of these people that when you go out there and you're giving them the positive information, you're making those smirky smiles or not being honest, like, oh, you did an excellent job, but not really meaning it. You need to be very happy as you do this. You will have so much more buy-in from the employee that you're trying to convert to a team member as a supervisor by doing this. I will tell you, the words that you use when you're talking to employees plays a huge factor on what you're trying to accomplish in the long run. When you're giving positive verbal feedback, be specific. Deliver the message immediately. Make it personal. Say, Bill, you did such an excellent job at this today, and go A, B, and C. Don't use the whole acronym of you did this great, but. I call that a butt sandwich. I've called that a butt sandwich for years. I think that's one of the worst things that you can do. Don't try to tell someone how excellent they are at something and then turn around and say, but you could have done this and it would have been much better. Worst thing that you can tell an employee that you're trying to convert into a team member. Corrective verbal feedback. Don't ignore unsafe behaviors as a supervisor. If you do that, you're essentially telling your employee that it's not important that you're going to point it out. And that what they're doing essentially is okay. Acknowledge when they make small improvements. This is very important. Don't use the butt sandwich termination there. Just reference, hey, you did excellent. I can see the improvement, and reference that there. Be objective and be specific when you're having these conversations. Use a questioning approach if you have some questions still on what they're doing. You can make that approach, still make it positive, but at the same time reference, this needs to be done. And I'm not understanding how you got to this particular outcome. Keep in mind that if you can use graphic feedback, this is very crucial. And when I say graphic feedback, I don't want people to be confused on, oh, you had an injury and show some graphic pictures of an injury that occurred. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm referencing in particular is show visual aids that will help you show where you've been, where you're going, and where you're trying to get to. Show them your current goals as the supervisor. Carry a clipboard that has this information. If you're not in the clipboard paper format, then use a tablet. And I'm talking about a digital tablet like an iPad or an Android tablet. Something along the lines where you can show them the information immediately. As you present this information, make sure that you're able to discuss it and that you're able to give detailed information, and make sure that you're discussing it frequently. People want to know where they stand. Also give obtainable short-term and achievable goals. Ask for employees' input. This will turn them into team members if you say, this is what we're trying to accomplish. By accomplishing this, we need to get to this. How do you think we should get there? Have your team team members / employees assist with developing the program, you will probably have a lot easier buy-in going forward. This also gives you a lot more opportunity for positive reinforcement by doing this. So you might sit here for a moment and go, types of positive reinforcement? What exactly are you talking about, Jay? Well, if you're going to give positive reinforcement, depending on how the person reacts, praise them in public, smile, tell them how great they did in front of others. Now, if they're the kind of person that does not like that, pull them to the side. Let them know how excellent they're doing. Give them your time and attention. The worst thing that you can do as a supervisor is tell someone how great they are doing as you're looking at your cell phone, or you have your cell phone on your desk as they're sitting there talking to you, or you're finishing doing a text or an email as they're standing in front of you and you're trying to tell them how great they are. You have not managed to give them minutes of your attention, but all of a sudden now you're telling them they're doing great. They're not going to believe that you're showing that. They're not going to believe that you're seeing a value in the work that they're performing if you do it in that particular matter. Sometimes people like to do the positive reinforcement in a tangible format. That's up to you as the company. If you want to do it in a gift certificate and certain privileges, maybe even give them money, a gift card, maybe to have them have a special lunch. That's entirely up to you. Everybody does it a little bit differently. The thing with stuff that's tangible, people tend to remember it a little bit longer. Also, the other thing is, be spontaneous. If you're going to do the tangible thing, don't set the expectation that every time that somebody does something right or that they've improved something, you're going to give them something. When you start doing that, it becomes overuse and it's expected every single time that you turn around. Then you get again to the reinforcement piece. The reinforcement is, you want to make sure that you don't become Mr. Positive and everything has such a great outcome and everything is so perfect and so excellent. Because when you run into that scenario, then everybody's just going to be like, well, this seems like a whole lot of hogwash in regard to you telling me on how great I'm doing, because everybody's been told the exact same thing. Also, don't expect that because you're implementing a program like this that the behaviors are going to change overnight, because that's not normally the common practice. A lot of people tend to get confused and expecting that, hey, this is what's going to change because I have all of a sudden implemented this program. That's normally not the case. Also, if someone has not done something positive, don't turn around and try to tell them they've done something positive because the person next to them has performed something that was positive and needed to be encouraged and reinforced at that particular time. I know that I went on a little bit longer than normal here today. Also, I just want to make sure that we do focus on how important our supervisors are out there in the field, because I think sometimes we tend to forget those. Also, at the same time, as I am recording this information, the other thing that we need to remember is every time that we get the opportunity, we need to sit with our supervisors and have a legitimate discussion on the job that they perform and what kind of value they bring to our overall organization. Keep in mind that they are essentially your mouthpiece out in the field. You can portray a message as a part of the leadership or upper management, but essentially those supervisors are the ones that are having the discussion with your field members, employees / team members that will try to get that information out there. I appreciate you listening to Safety FM today. I know that I had said originally in our last podcast that we were going to try to do questions and answers via phone call today. We did run into some technical issues, so we are going to attempt to do that for our next podcast. Worst comes to worst, I will just read the questions that were submitted and then go ahead and answer them from there. I do appreciate you listening to Safety FM today. I have been your safety manager and host, Jay Allen. And until next time, be safe.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
Streaming 24/7 on safetyfm.com.